What can one look for to know if they are living their dharma or not? So what are the signs? How do we know if we're living according to our dharma? Well, first of all, what is dharma and why would you want to live according to it? Dharma, the root of the word dharma, dri, is literally that which holds together, which binds together, which protects. So dharma is that which holds us together within ourselves, in our families, in our communities, and that which protects us. Dharma sometimes, frequently, is translated as the right path, or a good path, or my path, or something like that, that implies that it's actually a path that one would walk with a beginning and an end. The way that dharma really is used is it's not about so much what you do as who you are. So for example, a fire's dharma is to burn. Water's dharma is to be wet. A river's dharma is to flow. So it's not so much this action or that action as who you are. Now, we've got what we call universal dharma and individual dharma. And in order to live according to dharma, you have to have both. Universal dharma is the stuff that applies to everyone. Honesty, integrity, non-violence. You know, the stuff that nobody would say, oh no, I don't want to live my life according to that. No, I don't subscribe to that value. It's the universal good stuff that we all should abide by. The humanness, you can say, of our humanity. So like a fire's dharma is to burn, like a river's dharma is to flow, the dharma of humans is to act like human beings. One of the things that Pujya Swamiji always says, in a joking way, but it's really so sadly true, is he says, you know, no animal has to go to a college or a university to become that animal. A monkey doesn't have to go to college to be a monkey. A donkey doesn't have to get a degree to be a donkey. But for us, even after getting all of the degrees that we have, people say things to us like, be a human for God's sakes. Like, forget even the doctor or the engineer, we don't even act like humans. So our dharma, on the universal way, is to really act as humans, which is part of humanity. Not an isolated human being, but a piece of a much bigger entity called humanity. An even bigger entity called creation. To understand that I'm part of that and to live accordingly. But then we get to our individual dharma. So, okay, yeah, integrity is great, nonviolence is great, honesty is great, compassion and generosity and sharing and kindness, it's great. But what about me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And this is where our individual dharma comes in. And there's a few important aspects of this. The first aspect is that your dharma is not always going to be something that's going to be extraordinary or romantic or fantastic. Sadly, these days, we've got this very tragic misconception that each of us is here to do something that's never been done before, or to do it in a way that's never been done before, that if you're not living a life that is extraordinary, inventing something new, doing something brand new, doing things better than anyone ever did them, you're not actually fulfilling your purpose. And there's this incredible pressure. And it's new. Ask your grandparents. They weren't under this pressure. It's a new phenomenon. Most of our grandparents were really happy and felt comfortable and satisfied and fulfilled to just play a role in life as a homemaker, as carer of the family, as the breadwinner, as whatever they did. Most of them were content to just do that. But today what's happened is there's been this movement toward a brainwashing that somehow each of us is supposed to be doing something that is so extraordinary and so unusual and so special that until and unless you find it, your life is useless. And this is really important to remember. That's not true. The extraordinariness of your life may be in the way you love your children. It may be the way you love your spouse. It may be the way you garden. It may be the friendship you've made with your gardener or the guy who pumps your gas. The extraordinariness of your life may be how you've overcome certain obstacles and attained inner peace. It doesn't mean what you've invented or created or earned or started. So our dharma is really what we are here to be. And of course, when we know what we're supposed to be, then we know what to do. But the dharma is much more about being than doing. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains so beautifully to Arjuna that his dharma is who he is. His dharma is to be the warrior. His dharma is to be king. And what he has to do is simply so that he can live his dharma. For us, our dharma is going to be, each of us is going to have a different dharma. But for each of us, living that dharma, as Lord Krishna tells us in the Gita, is much more important, much more fulfilling. Not just in terms of this life, but in terms of my karmic cycle. Even if I die literally on the battlefield of fulfilling my dharma, than to live for 200 years but not fulfilling my dharma. But again, that doesn't mean it's going to be something very romantic or extraordinary or fantastic or fun. For some people, their dharma may come in a career. They find a career that fulfills their dharma. For others, their dharma may be to raise their children. And therefore, their career is simply that which they have to do to put bread on the table to feed their families. For others, their dharma may be to be the one who brings smiles to everyone in the neighborhood. And the career is secondary, the family is secondary. But being the one who smiles at everyone on the street is their dharma. So it's important to remember that dharma doesn't necessarily mean how I make a living. Doesn't necessarily mean my relationships with people. Doesn't mean my title. There's a beautiful story of a saint who's bathing in the river. And as he's bathing, he notices a scorpion is drowning in the river, and he reaches down to pick it up and save it, to put it on the shore. And as he goes to pick it up, the scorpion stings him, and he flings his hand in pain, and the scorpion falls back in the water. Again, he goes to pick the scorpion up. Again, the scorpion stings him. Again, he flings his hand and drops it in the water. And this goes on for several cycles. And finally, a man watching from the shore says, Baba, forget it. Let him die. He's a scorpion. He's going to keep stinging you. What are you doing? And the saint says, he stings me because it is his dharma to sting. It is my dharma to save. If he's not leaving his dharma, why should I leave mine? And what I love about the story is it really makes it clear to us that dharma is not always fun. Getting stung over and over by a scorpion isn't fun. It's not always extraordinary or romantic, other than this guy watching the saint do it who thought he was crazy. Nobody knew. I mean, it wasn't like somebody was, recording a live Facebook video of him doing it and then he knew, it's going to go viral. I'm going to be the saint of the century. It may not bring you any kind of acclaim. The scorpion wasn't going to go out and, nominate the saint for the Nobel Prize. And it just is doing your thing. Just doing what you're put here for. And people may not appreciate it. In the story, there's only two other characters, the scorpion and the guy on the shore. Neither of them appreciated it. The guy on the shore thought he was stupid. The scorpion stung him in thanks. But we just keep doing it because it's who we are. And that's living our dharma. And the way to know that we're living it is there's an ease internally. There may be difficulty outside. You still may be fighting to put food on the table. You may not be making as much money as you'd like. You may be getting stung literally. But there's an internal sense of being held together, because that's what dharma does. There's an internal sense of rightness. Even though it may make no sense to people, people may look at you and say you're crazy, but you'd make such a good engineer. Why are you going to go be a musician or an artist? Why give up all of this money? Why give up this potential? You could be, you could be the head of this engineering company. You could be president. Why be an artist? Why be a musician? Why be a monk? Why be a yoga teacher? Why go out and volunteer if you could get paid to do the same thing? So people may tell you anything. But when you follow your dharma, there's an internal sense of it being right. You feel it and you manifest it. And people who don't have a vested interest in you doing something different will be able to see. I remember after I'd been in India, when I first came and I was here for the first 3.5 months that we had intended to stay, the semester I had taken off for my PhD program, Puja Swamiji then sent me back. He thought he was sending me back for longer. As it turned out, it was just a semester. But I went through the drama of wanting to come back to India, but everybody telling me I shouldn't go. Everybody saying, but finish your degree, but get yourself settled. But, everybody seemed to think that once you got yourself settled, then take a year or two, go out, do some volunteer work, join the Peace Corps, doesn't matter, but don't leave now. And so I went through this drama of pretending I was making a decision, and I really thought I was. And it was a great source of conflict in me. Do I go? Do I not go? Do I follow my heart? Do I follow my head? And about halfway through that semester, my best friend, mentor, guide, amazing woman in my life, as I was sitting there bemoaning to her this decision that I thought I was making, she looked at me and she said, when I look at you, it's very clear to me that that decision has been made. She said, I see you in India. And she didn't mean that in some sort of new agey, clairvoyant, like let me close my eyes and burn some incense and, look in my crystal type of way. Just in the way of someone who didn't have a vested interest, someone who was clear and connected herself that she could really see. She said, I see you in India. She said, it seems to me there's really only two options you have. Either you can spend the next 6 weeks driving yourself crazy, pretending to make a decision that's actually already been made, or you can spend the next 6 weeks getting your stuff packed up and get yourself ready to move to India. And in that moment, it was this sense of, yeah, that's my truth. And even though I knew that everybody was still going to tell me I was crazy, and even though it didn't make any more sense than it had 10 minutes earlier, just naming that truth had a sense of, and that's what living your dharma has, is an internal sense of, yeah. And again, it doesn't mean there's not challenges. It doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean that you never have any conflicts. It just means that inside, you're held together in a way that you weren't when you weren't living your dharma, or that you're not when you're not. So that's the only way to know.